Greetings and good evening, beautiful people. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Hope you're having a wonderful day and peaceful week. Welcome to our live weekly YouTube readings of the final report of the California Reparations Task Force right here on CJEC, also referred to as CJEC YouTube channel. This is the only live reading of the California Reparations Task Force final report on YouTube. That's right, the only live reading. The final report of the first in the nation California Reparations Task Force is one of, if not, the most important government reports about the Black American freedmen community since the Kerner's Commission report of March 1968 under the Lyndon B. Johnson's administration and less than 30 days prior to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. Equally important is also the foundation for current and future reparations legislation in California. This report is nearly 1,100 pages, a total of 40 chapters, and we're bringing every page of it to you, chapter by chapter, every week on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Pacific time, right here on this channel, so that you are properly educated in your advocacy for reparations in California. Tonight's reading of the final report is presented to you as a community service with support from the Reparations Organizing and Mobilizing Team at the Coalition for a Just and Equitable California, also known as CJEC. CJEC is California's leading grassroots organization born for reparations and reparative justice for Black American freedmen living in California. For more info on CJEC and our work helping to enact the law that created the California Reparations Task Force, also referred to as AB 3121, the California's law SB 189, Section 14, requiring state agencies to collect data on descendants of those emancipated from U.S. chattel slavery, which was effective January 1st of this year. And I'm proud to announce there's more to come this year by way of AB 2089, with data collection requiring every one of California's 482 cities and 58 counties to collect and disaggregate lineage-based data specifically for Black American freedmen, the descendants of persons enslaved and later emancipated in the country. The act known as ACA 8 to end current slavery, also known as involuntary servitude in California state prisons, and finally, the California American Freedmen Affairs Agency Bill, SB 490, and more. To receive updates on these legislative efforts, please visit www.cjec-org and sign up for our monthly newsletter and or to receive text announcements. Before we go any further right now, I need you to do three things. First, connect to our YouTube channel by liking this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and hit the bell for reminders so you don't miss out on anything. Second, get connected to us on social media by following CJEC on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter at CJEC Official. Finally, get informed and involved. To do that, visit www.cjec-official.org to sign up for current and accurate California reparation news and info on our Get Involved page and support our work by volunteering and or donating. If you would like to donate, just click the Donate tab on the home page of our website. I would like to give special thanks to our amazing fiscal sponsor, the California Black Women's Health Project, located in Inglewood, California. You can learn more about our fiscal sponsor at www.cabwhp.org. By way of introduction, my name is Shanna. I live in the Bay Area. I am born and raised in Berkeley, California. Both families have root lineages from Mobile, Alabama, and Tulsa, Oklahoma. As you know, many of us have family all over this country due to the Great Migration. And I'm a volunteer reparations advocate with CJEC's Reparations Organizing and Mobilizing Team. Also, assistant lead for American Redress Coalition of California, ARC, Bay Area. The agenda for tonight, Chapter 26 of the final report of the California Reparations Task Force, titled Policies Addressing Control Over Creative, Cultural, and Intellectual Life, on page 734. You can follow along in the reading, download tonight's chapter, or the full report yourself by going to our website, www.cjec-official.org/report. Okay, we're about ready to start our reading, but before we do, I have some special thanks and announcements to make. First, as always, I'd like to thank our good friends at ETM Media Group on YouTube for their live readings of the first California Reparations interim report issued in June 2022, chapters 1 through 13. You can watch the readings of the interim report on their channel at ETM Media Group on YouTube and on our website at www.cjec-official.org/videos. Second, for those of you who don't know, historic reparations legislation in California is here and more is coming. SB 490 is California's first lineage-based reparations-related legislation to establish the California American Freedmen Affairs Agency. The bill was introduced by State Senator Stephen Bradford and will move forward this year of 2024. To read the bill, visit www.cjec-official.org/advocacy. Third, as mentioned, more historic reparation bills are coming. Over the next several months, more reparations bills will be written. This is a critical time to be informed and be involved. During this 2024 legislation session, we'll see those bills introduced and start moving forward passage by majorities of both the California State Assembly and Senate. Now, this is very important. To pass reparation bills in 2024, we need 41 Assembly members and 21 senators to vote yes. This is why we need all of you to put heavy pressure on your representatives. When those bills are passed, we need our governor to sign the bills. So to make reparations a reality in California, the math is 41 plus 21 plus 1. That's 41 Assembly members, 21 senators, and 1 governor. Again, 41 plus 21 plus 1 equals what? Reparations in California. Lastly, special thanks to CJEC's reparations organizing and mobilizing team, specifically our volunteer final report readers. And without further ado, Chapter 26 of the California Reparations Task Force final report. Chapter 26, Policies Addressing Control Over Creative, Cultural, and Intellectual Life. Policy Recommendations. This chapter details policy proposals to address harm set forth in Chapter 9, Control Over Creative, Cultural, and Intellectual Life. The task force recommends that the legislature take the following actions: provide state funding to African Americans to address disparity in compensation among athletes in the University of California and state system, and funding to support African American athletes in capitalizing on their name, image, and likeness and intellectual property. Prohibit discrimination based on natural and protective hairstyles in all competitive sports. Identify and remove monuments, plaques, state markers, and memorials, memorializing, preserving Confederate culture. Erect monuments, plaques, and memorials, memorializing and preserving the Reconstruction era and the African American community. Provide funding to the proposed California American Freedmen Affairs Agency, specifically for creative, cultural, and intellectual life. Eliminate the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation's practice of banning books. Provide state funding to African Americans to address disparity in compensation among athletes in the University of California and state system, and funding to support African American athletes in capitalizing on their name, image, and likeness and intellectual property. As documented in Chapter 9, control over creative, cultural, and intellectual life. Following the end of formal slavery, most African American athletes were forced to compete in segregated teams, sports, and organizations. In the University of California system, quote, Black male student athletes, end quote, who comprise a large portion of the male student athlete population, have some of the lowest graduation rates compared to overall graduation rates. At the same time, college student athletes generate millions of dollars in profits for schools, coaches, and conference and network executives. College athletics operate under the auspices of the National Collegiate Athletic Association, NCAA, a private nonprofit organization. Under previous NCAA regulations, compensation for student athletes was limited to scholarships for their education, universities. In contrast, have been able to secure, quote, multi-million-dollar deals with cable networks and athletic brands, all of which profit from using athletes' images in marketing campaigns, apparel sales, and ticket sales, among other revenue sources, end quote. As others have reaped the benefits, student athletes have often borne the cost. According to one estimate, among the approximately 500,000 college athletes who annually compete in NCAA athletics, there are more than 210,000 injuries per year, ranging from minor to catastrophic and even fatal. Research has also shown that Black male student athletes have had the experience of having athletic accomplishment prioritized over academic engagement and of being discouraged from participating in activities beyond their sport. Effective July 1st, 2021, the NCAA adopted the interim name, image, and likeness NIL policy, allowing NCAA student athletes the opportunity to benefit from their NIL without jeopardizing their NCAA eligibility. In August 2022, the NCAA Division I Board of Directors announced that schools are now empowered to support student athletes in a variety of ways without asking for waivers, including providing support needed for a student athlete's personal health, safety, and well-being, paying for items to support a student's academic pursuits, purchasing insurance of various types, in parentheses, including loss of value and critical injury, in parentheses, and funding participation in elite level training, tryouts, and competition. To address the harms associated with discrimination in competitive sports and the imbalance of profit generating income based on athletes' NIL, the task force recommends that the legislature conduct a study to determine the value African American athletes bring to academic institutions. In addition, the task force recommends that the legislature appropriate funds to academically support African American athletes and appropriately compensate African American athletes for the value they bring to the institution through non-contingent scholarship funds, private athlete insurance, and ongoing academic support. If history is any indicator, African American athletes are likely to be undercompensated for their talents compared to white athletes. Further study is needed to determine whether the impact of changed NCAA policies benefit African Americans in the same way other athletes might benefit. The task force recommends that the legislature direct that this study be undertaken. To support African Americans further in this area, the task force also recommends that a funding stream be created to assist African American athletes with monetizing their image and likeness while protecting their personal brand. This could include sponsor legal assistance and marketing training that may be administered by the California American Freedmen Affairs Agency. Prohibit discrimination based on natural and protective hairstyles in all competitive sports. In January 2021, Kylan Jefferson, a young Black student at Ottawa University, was removed from her cheerleading team for refusing to remove her bonnet during practice. Jefferson wore the bonnet to prevent her braids from hitting other team members. In December 2018, Andrew Johnson, a high school student on the wrestling team, was forced by a referee to either cut his dreadlocks or forfeit his match. As discussed in Chapter 9, Control over Creative, Cultural, and Intellectual Life, Eurocentric norms of professionalism often have a disparate impact on African American individuals. To remedy and address the harms in this area, the task force recommends that the legislature extend the reach of Senate Bill number 188 to explicitly include competitive sports within California. SB 188, the Create a Respectful and Open Workplace for Natural Hair Act, amended the California Government Code and Education Code, so the definition of race now also includes traits historically associated with race, including hair texture and protective hairstyles. This recommendation seeks to ensure that African American athletes are not subject to discrimination and exclusion based on their natural hair. Identify and remove monuments, plaques, state markers, and memorials, memorializing and preserving Confederate culture. Erect monuments, plaques, and memorials, memorializing and preserving Reconstruction era and the African American community. The erection of sort of monuments we make today and the naming of objects we name today are practices with historical roots, but not especially deep roots. Quote, in fact, it is mainly a Western and post-medieval practice, which puts it at only a few hundred years at the oldest, end quote. Confederate monuments harm African Americans because of what the monuments mean, the messages they convey, and the white supremacist ideology they advance. Most monuments to the Confederacy were either erected in the wake of Reconstruction or during the Civil Rights Movement, when African Americans in the South were striving for greater political power and social equality, and those who were resistant wished to express opposition to these developments. Confederate monuments commend those who committed treason against the United States and who ascribed to and fought and died to advance a white supremacist ideology that sought to preserve slavery and to continue subjugation of African Americans. Quote, as the philosopher Jeremy Waldron points out, public art and architecture are important means by which society and government can provide assurances to members of vulnerable groups that their rights and constitutional entitlements will be respected, end quote. As documented in Chapter 9, Control over Creative, Cultural, and Intellectual Life, however, a great number of Confederate monuments have been erected in many locations across California, including memorials dedicated to Confederate generals and soldiers in places such as Monterey, Fort Bragg, and San Diego. To remedy and address the harms associated with these ever-present markers of an insurrection dedicated to the preservation of the enslavement and oppression of African Americans, the task force recommends that the legislature identify and remove monuments, plaques, state markers, memorials, and any similar structure or markers memorializing and preserving Confederate culture. Only when all are removed will California have begun to address the history of monuments glorifying rebellion, enslavement, and white supremacy. This includes all such monuments, plaques, state markers, building names, and memorials so identified on government property and on private property that benefits from state funding. Additionally, the task force recommends that the legislature commit to identifying resources to fund monuments, plaques, state markers, and memorials and memorialize and preserve the brief period of Reconstruction in the United States and various key figures within the African American community. Provide funding to the proposed California American Freedmen Affairs Agency, specifically for creative, cultural, and intellectual life. As detailed in Chapter 9, Control over Creative, Cultural, and Intellectual Life, African American Californians continue to face discrimination in the television and film industry. Despite earning higher returns, quote, Black-led, end quote, projects are often characterized as economically invaluable, which results in, quote, Black-led, end quote, projects being underfunded. To rectify the harms in this area, the task force recommends that the legislature provide funding to the proposed California American Freedmen Affairs Agency on an annual basis to recreate and support African American cultural hubs and leisure sites, news publications, arts, in parentheses, including film, radio, television, visual arts, creative writing, podcasting, and other forms of art and media, in parentheses, and lifestyle activities. The intent behind this recommendation is to help bring about the restoration of the, quote, Harlem of the West, end quote, in communities where African Americans led businesses, facilities, churches, and shared cultural interests were able to thrive. Examples of where resources should be directed, including funding for rebuilding and supporting African American led businesses, including providing stipends for acquisitions of licenses such as liquor or cosmetology licenses, building and preserving outdoor recreational spaces such as parks, pools, sport fields, courts, rinks, beach access, and trails, curating African American art and integrating African American art within existing museums, creating a reparative fund or funded fellowship program for African American media institutions and African American media makers, makers in California to help prepare the harm caused by anti-African American narratives produced by dominant white media institutions, and to help nurture innovative media, civic technology projects, and African Americans owned media outlets, and supporting access to patents, copyrights, and trademarks through community-based education and legal assistance designed to assist African Americans through means such as funding for an African American public trust, funding for legal incubator programs specifically benefiting African Americans, and funding to support educational opportunities for African Americans, such as continuing education, certificate programs, symposia, and technology conventions. These recommendations seek to address the harms associated with the disruption of African American cultural centers in the name of redevelopment, and to address the history of censorship of African American produced media and arts. These public works, educational, and legal services initiatives should be prioritized for areas predominantly occupied by African Americans or spaces where African Americans have traditionally gathered for recreation in an effort to restore community watering holes and thriving cultural hubs that were lost in the name of urban renewal. The task force recommends that the proposed California American Freedmen Affairs Agency be granted authority to administer these programs and have the discretion to provide this funding directly to individual applicants or to fund grants to NGOs, non-government organizations that are involved in this work. These recommendations are intended to stand irrespective of whether the agency is ultimately created by the legislator and if so, whether it is constituted in a matter that would comprise the roles and responsibilities specifically here. Eliminate the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation's practice of banning books. States and local governments have engaged in racist censorship of books written by African American authors, primarily in public schools and in prisons. The task force recommends that the legislature directs the appropriate state agency to review the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation's list of banned books to determine whether the ban should remain in effect. The task force aims to address the censorship of African American creative works by examining whether written work or publications featuring the stories or experiences of African American people and their forebears should be removed from the list of banned books. Alternatively, the task force recommends that the legislature direct the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation to provide criteria and justification for banning particular books and require evidence that a book ban is an effective means of accomplishing a legitimate state goal or purpose. And that will conclude tonight's reading of Chapter 26 of the California Reparations Task Force Final Report. Before you go, if you haven't done so already, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit the bell for reminders. When you go, don't forget to get connected. Follow CJEC on social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter at CJEC Official. Get informed. Visit www.cjec-official.org and sign up for current and accurate California reparation news and info on our Get Involved page. Get involved. Support our work by volunteering and or donating. To donate, just click the Donate tab on the homepage of our website. Again, special thanks to our incredible fiscal sponsor, the California Black Women's Health Project. Thank you all so much for your time during this evening and allowing me to read this very important and relevant chapter. And like my folks say in the South, I appreciate you all. We're closer to reparations than we've ever have been in California. And with that, have a lovely evening.